call the Monday, November 29th meeting to order. Thank you all for coming out this evening, and I would like to ask Karen Swinehart to lead us in the pledge. Special thanks to Karen Swinehart. And the next item on is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Tizer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. For the record, Councilmember Zapata is not in attendance, and it's not an approved absence, so perhaps he'll join us. The next item, we've got several proclamations, so if you all will bear with me, this is all good news. The first one is the Rick Case Bikes for Kids Month. Whereas for 39 years now, Rita and Rick Case have been instrumental in supporting the gift of donations for underprivileged children by providing bicycles during the holiday season. And whereas starting the Rick Case Bikes for Kids program in 1962, Rita and Rick Case initiated a program that has not only benefited children in need, but has provided an annual outlet for the community to easily step in and help by donating new or used bicycles that you might have in your garage, which are then distributed to grateful children and families. Whereas hundreds of bicycles are collected and distributed each year in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Clubs and other local charities, providing an additional layer of community involvement and charitable education as the children learn the true meaning of it's better to give than receive. And whereas the recipients are delighted children whose holiday is lifted by the generous benevolence of the community and all of those involved in Rick Case Bikes for Kids program. And whereas the City of Roswell would like to honor this commitment to the community shown by Rick Case Automotive Group, whose corporate philosophy is to contribute to the communities in which they do business, including helping children in need through their participation and contribution to Boys and Girls Clubs, local charities, and their national Rick Case Bikes for Kids program. Now, therefore, I, Lori Henry, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim December 2021 as Rick Case Bikes for Kids Month in the City of Roswell and encourage those in our community to donate a used or a new bicycle for our children in need in our community, not only share the holiday spirit, but to promote a healthy outdoor lifestyle in our bicycle-friendly community. And let's hear it for Rick Case. And do we have anyone here representing, would you please come forward, please?
Hello.
Hi. And could you just give us a little information on how many bikes have you already had?
It typically picks up once we start December, but we're currently at our Roswell location, 7 bikes, and like you said, it's a huge event that we've done, running 39 years. Used bikes, anything you have in the garage. We have our location in Roswell and then 5 stores in Gwinnett, and we'll run it all the way up until the 22nd, and then we'll hand it out to the Boys and Girls Club and other local charities, so it's a really, really good event.
Terrific, and we would love to have a picture with you if
Absolutely.
Council will join me.
Okay, great, great. Okay, just keep smiling. That's great, thank you.
Thank you again to Rick Case. Great program, and I would encourage everyone to get involved. The next item is a proclamation for Giving Tuesday. Whereas Giving Tuesday, a celebration of philanthropy and volunteerism, promotes the idea of a nationwide day of giving on Tuesday following Thanksgiving holiday, and whereas this observance follows the widely recognized shopping days of Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday, and encourages people to contribute to their favorite charitable causes and organizations. And whereas the one-day total of monetary donations given by individuals and organizations in the United States in 2020 was over $2 billion, to include online and offline donations per givingtuesday.org. And whereas this was in addition to countless volunteer hours, in-kind donations, and individual acts of kindness in a pandemic year. And whereas the City of Roswell celebrates all citizens who choose to work together in the spirit of helping others with Giving Tuesday, serving as a reminder to share commitments, rally for favorite causes, build a stronger community, and think of others' needs this holiday season. And whereas 2021 marks the third year the City of Roswell observed the occasion, including by sharing and Giving Tuesday social media posts, and whereas the city recognizes the tremendous impact of philanthropy, volunteerism, and community service in Roswell and North Fulton, and encourages all residents to support our national nonprofit partners or local charities of their choice this Giving Tuesday and throughout the year. Now therefore, I, Lori Henry, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Roswell, Georgia, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2021 as Giving Tuesday, and call upon all citizens to join together to give well Roswell and give back to the community in any way that is personally meaningful. Thank you, and I would encourage you all to get involved in Giving Tuesday tomorrow. It's a great event. Do we have anyone here from our grants department? I know that they pull this together. Yes, would you please come forward? We'd love to have a picture. And is there any additional information you can provide?
Well, Mayor Henry and council members, thank you for this lovely recognition of Giving Tuesday. In addition to Rick Case Bike for Kids Month, opportunity to give there tomorrow. We are immensely grateful for the number of nonprofits that are in Roswell, serving the community alongside us, including those among our nonprofit partners. Our nonprofit partners have been invited to join us this evening. So if you are here with one of our nonprofit partners, please rise to be recognized at this time. Thank you so much. If you're comfortable telling us your name and the organization you're with, we would welcome you to do so.
Okay, my name is Tilly O'Neill. I'm the founder and executive director of Every Woman Works.
And my name is Cheryl Giordano, and I'm the grant writer for Every Woman Works. And we were featured on the City of Roswell's website the 24th, and production with Georgia Gives Day. We really appreciate that.
I'm Renee Sherlock, I'm the executive director
Well, sincere thanks to all of you.
You missed
For the work
someone.
you do.
You missed someone over here.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Should have turned.
Ken Baker, and I'm the president of the Roswell Historical Society, and so I, as well as everybody else, thank you for hiring us and giving us.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate all the work you do with your respective organizations in Roswell and Greater North Fulton, and wish you all the best this Giving Tuesday as we all seek to give well Roswell. And if there's an opportunity.
And I would like to invite all of our nonprofit folks, representatives, to come up for a picture with us.
Megan and all right, so we have our council up top here, and then everybody can just sort of squish in a bit. Okay. All right. All right, and then just keep smiling. We'll get a bunch here. Ooh, let me make sure I get Marie. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you all in advance for celebrating Giving Tuesday, and let's make Roswell proud of us. Okay, the next proclamation is for Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Lori Henry, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim Monday, November 29th, 2021, as Arbor Day in the City of Roswell, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Do we have anyone here representing our Community Development Department as far as Arbor Day? Ms. Bromberg?
Hi, Kayla Hicks, our city arborist, was unable to be with us tonight. She's been working with you to get this put together. She's been working really hard, and we will have plans to plant a tree. We're working on that, and we'll keep you posted as well.
Terrific. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is under Community Development Department, Councilmember Hall. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I just skipped right over Mr. Fisher and Mr. Skalski for our transportation updates. I am so sorry.
That is quite okay. We were coming up anyway, so Wanted to give you an update again on the transportation progress for the recommendations from Gerard and Davis for the mayor's report. We've been doing this at each one of the meetings. And I've asked Mr. Skowski if he would to talk about some of the new items and new updates. Several of these are starting to move into some operational things that we're doing within the department. And as Mr. Skowski is the interim director, he is very knowledgeable of what actions are being taken. So he's going to give you some of those updates, and then we'll both be up here for any questions as we move forward. Mr. Skowski.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher, Mayor and Council, and members of the public. We're just going to highlight a few updates. We're just going to highlight a few of the updates that have been made since the last update of Mayor and Council. So those you'll see in red, we're going with holiday colors. Green represents our last update. And internally, in terms of project progression, as projects go on for an extended duration, we've had internal list of attendees planned for our project management training that'll be going on for all RDOT project managers between the months of November, which we've already started, and March of 2022. So that'll address some of our issues that we've had related to project handoffs and transitions over time. The next item, project reactivation, is a similar topic, and we are taking lessons learned from what we've gone through on the Oxbow project and applying those to procedures that we'll be going and using through our future projects in terms of negotiations related to projects and properties. In terms of staff certification, this is actually a current procedure, and this applies specifically to those requirements for individuals that are involved in the land acquisition process. Current staff hold a right-of-way training and certifications through the International Right-of-Way Association, and that will be a requirement for all people involved in right-of-way acquisition on behalf of the city going forward. And we also have adopted a blanket right-of-way budget approval process, which I believe many of you have been a part of, that has been implemented since the Oxbow project was originally run through right-of-way using a different procedure. And so that's been something that has gone through this council and through legal. In terms of our negotiations, we just finished a wonderful brief work session on the eminent domain process and how our right-of-way acquisition process will move forward through negotiations with the eminent domain process as part of that, as required and recommended by the Gerard and Davis court, as well as by state law. That is all of our updates for this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions for Mr. Skowski or Mr. Fisher? Thank you, gentlemen, for the update. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we can go to Councilmember Hall, Community Development Department.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 5, approval of RZ 2021-2612, CU 2021-2613, CV 2021-2614, 12740 and 12770 Arnold Mill Road, rezoning from AG 43 agricultural to NX neighborhood mixed use, and concurrent variances to built-to-zone, encroachment to height for a parapet, and ground floor story height for a senior living community. Applicant requested a deferral from the September 13th, 2021 Mayor and Council meeting to the November 8th, 2021 Mayor and Council meeting, and the item was deferred from the November 8th, 2021 Mayor and Council meeting to the November 29th, 2021 Mayor and Council meeting. And this is presented by Ms. Dybel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Oops, let me turn this on. Here we go. This is 12740 and 12770 Arnold Mill Road, rezoning 2021-2612, requesting a rezoning from AG 43 to NX for institutional residential living facility, with concurrent variances 2021-2614 to the build-to zone, ground story height, and to increase the encroachment height of the parapet. And I will go through those later in the presentation. This application was submitted in June of 2021. The neighborhood meeting was on July 8th, 2021. Planning Commission was held on August 17th. The mayor and council meeting, the applicant requested a deferral at the September 13th meeting, and at the November 8th meeting, it was deferred by the mayor and council to this evening. This is an aerial of the property showing the location at the two parcels highlighted out, outlined in red. This is the zoning map. As you can see, it is zoned agricultural. There's agricultural to the south, to the west, to the east. Across Arnold Mill Road is the city of Milton. To the north is the NX zoning, which is dog kennel. This is the future land use map. The brown shaded color is a neighborhood serving area. The blue is the neighborhood residential character area. As you can see from the highlighted parcel, the top portion of the parcel is located within the neighborhood serving character area. The blue portion, the bottom half of the parcel, is in the neighborhood residential character area. This is the proposed site plan. So the site plan has two entrances, one on the north and one on the south, shown here. They have 195 parking spaces. It's on 13.275 acres. The building is 275,000 square feet. They have a 40-foot neighborhood compatibility buffers on the south and the west boundaries. Of course, also on the western boundary, or is that the eastern boundary? I'm sorry. The one on the left, by the stream. They also have a buffer in that area. And then the stormwater management is provided by the bioretention pond area and a detention pond. As you can see, the bioretention area is located towards the south. Sorry. The variance request is requested to increase the build-to zone from 85 feet to 125 feet, to request to increase the height encroachment for a parapet by 6 feet, and to reduce the minimum ground story height from 11 feet to 9 feet. This map drawing shows the build-to zone request. The yellow line is the 85 feet. The blue line is the 125 feet, which is where they're asking to set the building back to. At the November 8th council meeting, we were requested to take a look at the Holbrook of Woodstock senior living facility. And as you can see on the screen, this is the comparison. The Holbrook of Woodstock is 20.4 acres. They have 274 units. It's 421,000 square feet. The height ranges from 51 feet to 70 feet. The Gravant Senior Living Facility is on 13.275 acres. They have 216 proposed units. It's 275,000 square feet, and they have 45 feet in height plus the parapet. To go a little bit further, based on the information that we received from the city of Woodstock, the Holbrook is two separate buildings with 2-hour separation walls. One side is the independent living and the other side is assisted living. The square footage of the assisted living is 128,000 square feet. The number of units within the assisted living portion is 99 units. And the height is roughly 51 feet on the assisted living side. On the independent living side of the Holbrook, it's 293,079 square feet, and that's where the total of 421,000 plus comes into. The number of units on the independent living side is 175 for the total number of units of 274. And the height on the independent living side ranges between 65 feet and 70 feet to the highest point elevation. And the height of the cottages, because there are cottages with also a part of the Holbrook, is 18 feet. The Planning Commission recommended denial of this application when it went to them back in August. And the denial recommendation, should say 2035 comp plan, I'm sorry about that, was based on the 2035 comp plan because that was in place at the time this application was filed. And also the fact that at the time, the applicant was requesting a conditional use request for height to go from 45 feet to 60 feet. Since the Planning Commission meeting, the 2040 comprehensive plan has been adopted. And as I stated earlier, the larger parcel, which is a portion of this rezoning, is now located within the neighborhood serving area. The NX zoning request, which the applicant is requesting, does comply with the 2040 comprehensive plan neighborhood serving character area. And as I stated before on the zoning map here, the neighborhood serving area is in the brown and the neighborhood residential is in the blue. The applicant has withdrawn the conditional use request for the additional height. So there is no conditional use request as part of this application. Staff does recommend approval with the following conditions: that the owner developer shall develop the property in accordance with the site plan that's dated August 5th, 2021. The square footages are not guaranteed. The applicant may need to reduce the building size or rearrange parking as required by staff comments. And a combination plat shall be approved and recorded prior to the submittal of any permits. Also included, the staff brought forward the conditions that were mentioned at the November 8th council meeting. The owner developer shall be required to comply with the Housing for Older Persons Act for exemption to the Fair Housing Act. On the northernmost access, left turns shall be prohibited by using a raised concrete median as approved by the Transportation Department. The owner developer may be required to move access per the Georgia DOT requirements. And the last one is to protect the current landowner from unintended tax consequences. Would like the request that the proposed zoning become effective upon closing of the property for the intended use or the issuance of a land disturbance permit, whichever is sooner. If a land disturbance permit has not been issued or the property has not been purchased for the intended use within 24 months from approval, the zoning will remain unchanged. Do you have any questions for staff?
Council have any questions for staff? Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you. When the applicant gets up, you mentioned they'd withdrawn the height variance request, so I'll be curious to understand what that means to the design.
All right, unless you would like me to answer that. So it was not a height variance. It was a conditional use for additional height to go from 45 feet to 60 feet, not stories, just height. So they are asking for a variance to allow the parapet to encroach, but that's just a portion of the building. So I'll let the applicant finish off that portion.
Additional questions, comments for staff? We would like to hear from the applicant, please.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present our project, the proposed senior living community. I'm Sarah Gregory, the project's architect and the director of senior living for CJ&W Architecture. I'm here today with Dave Rogers of Grovemont Partners, the owner and operator, and Wesley Reed with Eberly & Associates, the civil engineer. Tonight, before I start the general presentation, I'd like to clarify some of the vague language used to discuss senior living and answer some of the previous questions about who lives in senior living and why providing quality senior living is an act of compassion from and for a community. The categories and labels used in senior living are not unified and vary with each agency and industry. Here are the 5 most common categories. Active adult. This is typically age-restricted living, usually with amenities similar to an apartment building or a condo. Independent living is also age-restricted living with amenities, 24-hour staff, daily check-ins, planned activities with paid directors, and on-site dining. There's usually wellness centers and a paid professional director. Assisted living is senior living where residents receive assistance with activities of daily life, like bathing, dressing, dining, toileting, but do not need 24-hour care. Memory care communities are residents who need supervision as well as hands-on assistance with activities of daily living specifically designed to support individuals who are struggling with dementia. Skilled nursing is care that can only be performed by licensed nurses in a 24-hour care. Like our proposed project, there we go. Most new life plan communities being designed today incorporate these 3 middle highlighted levels of care: independent living, assisted living, and memory care. A life plan community generally is a site that provides multiple tiers of lifestyles and care at one location, ideally allowing the resident to age in the community. It also allows for couples with differing health needs to remain in the same location. Today, 15% of Roswell's population is 65 or older. Nationally, the population of those of us lucky enough to live to be 85 plus will triple to 14.1 million in the next 19 years. The profile of the average senior living resident is 80 to 85 years old. 71% of all residents are female. Approximately 75% of residents are widowed. About 45% of residents move to senior living due to a health change for themselves or their partners. As much as we desire senior living to be a preferred future for all, it is often still very stigmatized and pushed out in communities. But with the estimates that more than 70% of all persons needing long-term care assistance at some point in their lifespan and our increased longevity, we are grossly underserved for our own futures. The City of Roswell has recognized this upcoming need in its comprehensive plan. Without quality senior living options, residents are forced to leave their communities and seek quality living options outside of their hometown. Our proposed project is located along the northeast perimeter of the city, along Highway 140 on 13 acres. The property is located on a commercial corridor, Arnold Mill Road, and bounded by the city of Milton, shown here with a red overlay, to the east and north. The adjacent northern neighbors are a pet boarding and resort property and the City of Milton Cemetery. To the west, our property borders the City of Milton's athletic complex and the Mulkey's property, zoned agricultural. To the south, the property borders the Ruckers property, zoned agricultural. Also visible on this slide are the densely wooded areas of tree preservation at the south and west property line. This slide is oriented in map view, with the north being located to the top of the page. The property lines are shown here in red. On the east property line, on the right, is Arnold Mill Road. The community will have two access points from Arnold Mill Road, one to the north end and one to the south along Arnold Mill Road. The building's NX property Build-To zone is shown here in yellow. The proposed Build-To zone is shown in blue, showing our request to site the building back from the street an additional 40 feet. This property design preserves 3.2 acres of densely wooded land, including tree preservation buffers at the south and west property line. There is also a natural preservation and natural stream on the site that will be preserved and maintained. The preserved natural areas shown in green at the left and the bottom of the slide will range from 40 to over 200 feet of transitional buffer depth to the adjacent City of Roswell neighbors. In addition to the preservation area, landscape plantings will be provided, allowing for the tree density to be 7 times the code required density. A certified arborist was hired to survey the existing tree preservation area. We've learned from these surveys that the mature trees vary from 40 feet to 100 feet in height. This slide is showing the southern buffer and the setbacks along the red section line A in the upper left image at the property tree preservation buffer from the southern neighbor to our proposed building. Here's an enlarged image of section line A, which you see on the right. Here's our southern buffer. The trees are 40 to 60 feet tall. We will be maintaining just over 40 feet of tree preservation buffer, plus an additional 29 feet of planted buffer. The building then sits back an additional 158 feet from the shared property line. The new building will also be recessed down 7 feet from the adjacent neighbor's home. This recess plus the tree preservation buffer conceal the building from the line of sight of the southern neighbor. You can see the sight line diagram on the lower image of the slide. Here's an image of the existing tree buffer density existing today from the south that we will be preserving for significant natural screening. This site section is through the southwest property line and tree preservation buffer, shown in the upper left corner along section line B. Here's an enlargement of that image running to the lower left corner. The stream and tree buffer along this site section are dense, with 296 feet of existing mature tree preservation buffer on our side of the property line. In addition, we will have 41 feet of newly planted buffer. The mature trees in this preservation buffer will vary from 60 to 100 feet. This 400-foot setback and dense tree preservation buffer conceal the building from the line of sight of the southern neighbor. This is our proposed building from our southern entry. The property will be a private pay community for seniors with supportive living options should assistance be required. This lifestyle-driven community will be crafted around curated culinary, wellness, lifestyle, and social experiences. This is a rendering of our proposed northeast corner. This is a view of our building from Arnold Mill Road on the east side of our property. We've crafted the building to reflect the community in style and scale. We've broken down the larger wings into individual architectural elements with a varying material palette. This rendering illustrates how the first floor is recessed down below the grade of Arnold Mill Road. The community-driven design focus is to provide a resort atmosphere with interior environments that are centered around blending organic and classic design, environments that are elegant and approachable. We will provide multiple dining venues, including restaurants, coffee shops, and a bar experience. A wellness focus will be central to our amenities, including on-site fitness, massage, and salon services. Curated outdoor spaces are a key design focus, including places for outdoor dining, relaxation, and social engagement. Landscape courts, gardens, to expand the interior assembly and dining venues, host activities, and are the center of family events. The exterior building palette will be rich earth tones with accenting natural elements. A residential hand can be seen in the building's scale, detail, and finish, incorporating the surrounding architectural style and residential patterns into the building design. Here's a sample of our possible color palette. We're envisioning a palette of warm grays and earth tones. We propose the building's exterior materials will include premium materials such as masonry, shake siding, and board and batten. We'll create moments of uniqueness to create an individual experience and a pedestrian scale. This will be a custom and elegant community. We're proposing a luxury product. These are a few of the inspirational images that we've used to influence our building design: gabled and sloped architectural roof elements, natural materials and color palettes, accent dormers and stonework, large windows, and detailed doorways. This is a projection of our project timeline. We anticipate starting design the fourth quarter of 2021. Construction will begin in the early third quarter of 2022 and complete in 2024. Following a 30-day operational transition, residents would be available to move in 2024. In addition to providing quality senior housing, we will be a meaningful tax-based contributor, provide a need identified by the comprehensive plan. We are a low-impact user of the community resources infrastructure. We are compatible with the comprehensive plan development map and will provide a premier design forward living option for Roswell's mature population. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dave to finish us up.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Dave Rogers with Gravant Partners. I'd like to take a few minutes to address the requests made by council during our most recent public hearing. It was requested that we reach out to those who brought forward concerns or questions. We've done that. Letters were sent to everyone with exception to one individual whose identity we were unable to obtain. But in our written correspondence, we addressed traffic, clarified sanitary sewer connection and connection requirements, confirmed our commitment to incorporate GDOT-approved safety provisions to the north access, and described the preservation of natural areas. Furthermore, we offered our availability for additional follow-up via phone or in person at the community's convenience. And I believe all of you have a copy of the letter that we provided. If you don't, we have some for you. During the previous hearing, the individual that we were unable to identify discussed the matter of convenience of complementing uses. Whoop, I forgot I got this. All right, there we go. We would like to note there's a tremendous amount of compatible and complementing uses nearby. There's a high-density housing development just down the street, and based on a quick canvassing of the area, we've identified almost 100 different uses within a mile, and I'm certain we didn't capture them all. Listed here are 17 different uses we identified. Every neighborhood serving category I can think of is represented, from athletic facilities to grocery stores, healthcare, educational, banking, professional offices, and so on. I won't go through all of these, obviously, but this is a sample list of the neighborhood serving uses within a mile. Again, I know we didn't capture every use, but the point is that there's a significant amount of commercial, civic, and retail uses in close proximity. And we captured a few representative images. This is the housing development I was referencing. This is about 300 yards south of the proposed projects. It's a 3-story product, and this project stretches about 750 feet along Arnold Mill, which is about twice the length of our project. Next is, this is the professional office buildings at the silos. This is a substantial commercial center about a half a mile south on Arnold Mill. It contains a variety of neighborhood uses from medical to grocery. And this is another large commercial center just south of the one I previously mentioned. And again, there's a nice mix of neighborhood uses represented here as well. We could pull in many more, but this is just a sample of the commercial representation in the area. Next, council requested an overlay. Ms. Dybel recently kind of went through that. We'll go through it from a different perspective, kind of what the public experiences when they drive past this project in terms of scale. So we're going to compare our project to the one in Woodstock. This is obviously an aerial of the one in Woodstock. Just the vertical development stretches 1,575 feet along the adjacent highway. This is our conceptual footprint overlaid on the Woodstock project. As you can see, we only cover a fraction of their project. And finally, this is the Woodstock project overlaid, if it were overlaid on our site. Obviously, this project is meaningfully larger. It expands across Arnold Mill to the north and through Mr. Rucker's property all the way through Ms. Pennebaker's property on the south. A few notable comparisons. This project is over four times the length of our project. Their building reaches building heights of 70 feet to the roof, which is 50% higher than our proposed project, which is a max of 45 feet to the roof. Lastly, Woodstock sits above the road versus our building, which is recessed below Arnold Mill, which further mitigates scale of the property. I thought it might be helpful to show a section cut of the southeast corner, which illustrates how our building will be graded below Arnold Mill. And lastly, council brought forward concerns regarding the safety of the north access. We share those concerns. As discussed in the previous public hearing, we're happy to add raised concrete in addition to signage to fortify those turn restrictions. So what we've provided here is a diagram adding that restrictive concrete median to the north drive. And that north drive is highlighted in blue on the right there. And with that, I believe we've responded to all the requests from mayor and council, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. Could you go back to, I think it's slide 31, or it's either 31 or 32 that had your summary?
Is it the neighborhood summary, or?
Yeah, just your final
I see
summary.
the number now on the right. Okay, there we go. Well, hold
before,
on. There's 34. Is it
before that?
Before this?
Right. Oh.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
So the fourth point, compatible with the comprehensive plan development map. In looking at the newly adopted 2040 map, and I know that the neighborhood serving area, character area, is different or new than in the prior plan. The vision of that is the character area continues to provide commercial uses for nearby existing neighborhoods in a manner that is compatible with their scale and character. So my concern is that this doesn't provide for those uses and it's not compatible with those residential serving areas. Can you speak to that or comment on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the architecture is compatible. We've kind of embraced that there's an equestrian lifestyle that is apparent in that area. And we think that we've kind of drawn upon that to design the building. And we've done things to, mitigate the scale of the building in terms of recessing it below the grades to the south and to the east, which is Arnold Mill Road. And furthermore, we've pushed the building all the way north so that there is, I can't think of a site where you have a less impact on adjacent land uses. You can't see the building unless you're going to the building and its destination, but yet it has convenient access to all the complementing uses that we outlined here. So for those reasons, we think it's a nice fit. We don't generate a lot of traffic. We can conceal the property. It's private. We can build a nice campus. We don't impact the neighbors around us, and yet it has convenient access to all the complementing land uses. So we think it's a good fit for that area.
Thank you.
Additional comments, questions from council? Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. I want to expand on that a little for discussion. So I'd say the part that Councilmember Hall brought up specifically on the vision of our new comp plan being both the character and the scale, and that's where I do have a concern, given this part of Roswell does have a just a very rural, less intense scale and character, and just the concern that such a larger building and such more just impactful, that doesn't potentially match with the character is a concern of mine. I did see the comparison with one in Woodstock, but that area where that other one is in a much more commercial area, so I do want to stay focused on this area. But I'd like to actually, Councilmember Hall brought up the vision and concerns with the current comp plan that's been approved by this council with a lot of public input, but actually in looking at it even more so, talking about the map specifically. So in the previous comprehensive plan, this was not a compatible use, and that was a part of the recommended denial. But then in addition to that, our more recent and current comprehensive plan, I'd say it's still not compatible with the map because there's a portion that's neighborhood serving and there's a portion that is residential. And the portion that's residential specifically does not have this zoning as a compatible use. So I guess those are where I have some concerns that I'd love to really discuss and understand a little more.
Well, I would say on the parcel that is the neighborhood residential parcel just to the south, we have pushed the building as far north as we can, compacted the design in kind of a boxier shape to get some depth to the building versus a lengthier building with legs and things. So I would say most of that parcel that has remained neighborhood residential is a buffer and being preserved as trees, and we're actually adding a berm there, and then there's drive. So it's all horizontal related development there on that parcel. The vertical improvements happen on the neighborhood serving parcel. So
We do have the high-density housing just across the street that is 3 stories plus a sloped roof. And we are recessing ours down to help mitigate some of our height, to help it fit in addition to pushing it back another 40 feet from the street. We've broken each of the wings down into multiple areas. We have increased the design. We've added additional architectural elements to break the scale down. We're really using residential patterns and languages. We haven't done just a flat roof. We've added lots of sloped gable elements, big residential windows. Our goal is to really and truly make this a home for your community. We desire that the people in these neighborhoods live in our community. So it's for you, and it's designed to fit directly right in to what you have right there.
Additional comments, questions from council? Thank you all very much. We'll reserve time for rebuttal. And now I would like to open it up to the public. I would like to remind everyone, if you would like to speak, to fill out a comment card. And also when you come to the podium, identify yourself and your address. The perfect example of that not happening was with this applicant could not locate one of the speakers from the last meeting. So please identify yourself, provide your address, and fill out a comment card. Who would like to come forward first? Please raise your hands. Yes, sir. Please come forward.
My name's Alan Rucker. I live on the south border of this property. And anyone that has eyes to see could see this 60-foot buildings with all these people does not fit the area. It's residential on the south, across the road, which is Milton, which that wouldn't matter. On the north end, there's a business, 5-star dog kennels, dog bark, that's what they do. What about his livelihood? And for the sewer, they said that they could run it down the side of 140 to Cagle Road. There's a 12-foot right-of-way, 1,070 feet from Cagle Road to the end of the sidewalk in front of the house. In that 12-foot right-of-way, there's storm drains, major water main, gas, utilities. And then the next 185 or so feet to the property line, the center line right-of-way drops to 25 feet center line to center. Is anyone, like I say, anyone that has eyes to see this does not fit this area? And on one of their overviews on the northern drive, there's a starting of a creek. Can you dam up a creek for a detention pond? And part of their drive come over that starting of the creek. But this, the bottom line, it does not belong here in that residence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Chapman, a Roswell resident. On the Grovant zoning application, they state that the zoning amendment changing from agriculture to neighborhood mixed use will reinforce the planned character of the area according to Roswell's 2040 comprehensive plan. The problem is that Grovant's proposed high-intensity institutional residential development does not comply with Roswell's definition of what NX neighborhood mixed use land can be used for. From here on out, I'll refer to this type of zoned land as NX. Roswell's Unified Development Code and Design Guidelines, which I'll refer to as UDC from here on out, state that NX districts are intended to primarily provide neighborhood-serving retail and commercial uses at intensities compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. According to the UDC, a building located in an NX district would acquire an assortment of uses on the first floor intended to serve the surrounding neighborhoods, and any residential use would be limited to the upper stories, the second floor and above of a mixed-use building. The Grovant proposal does not comply because their plan includes residential on the first floor rather than an assortment of neighborhood-serving mixed uses. The NX district states, to help ensure that uses are truly neighborhood serving, individual tenant footprints cannot exceed 15,000 square feet. Grovant does not comply with this because they would be the sole owner of all the square footage, while also not offering commercial uses of retail, restaurants, and services to the surrounding neighborhoods as required by both the UDC and the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The vision statement of the neighborhood serving character area from the 2040 Comprehensive Plan states the neighborhood serving character area will provide commercial uses for the nearby existing neighborhoods in a manner that is compatible with their scale and character. The plan even defines what the city means by commercial, which is an assortment of retail, restaurant, and services used within compact walkable locations centered on key intersections. The Grovant proposal does not comply with the 2040 Comprehensive Plan because it does not offer an assortment of retail, restaurant, and services for existing neighborhoods. It only provides one use, which is institutional residential, and that doesn't serve the residents of the nearby neighborhoods. Our rural area has a traditional rural existing infrastructure. Milton and Roswell want low-intensity development in this area. Our neighbors care about what is built in our neighborhood. I started a petition this past Saturday afternoon for residents who are against high-intensity developments in our area, and I got over 300 signatures in that short amount of time. I've got them here. I can give them to you after. There's 9 pages of signatures. The neighbors in our area would like to be included in collaboration about a neighborhood mixed-use development that, by definition of the comprehensive plan, is there to serve us and our area. I feel the only interest Grovant has had in us is to talk about using our land for the sewer line cut through, which, by the way, none of the surrounding neighbors want our land being used for sewer line. We're very close neighbors. We've all discussed this in person with one another, but we haven't had an in-person discussion with Grovant about sitting down and talking about the vision for the neighborhood and how we see the future of this neighborhood serving area. I don't think they felt the need to meet with us because Grovant isn't complying with the neighborhood serving character area that is clearly stated in the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. So they have seen no need to reach out to us, the surrounding neighbors. City council members, do we have any institutional residential that's zoned NX in a neighborhood serving character area? If we don't follow Roswell's rules and put appropriate developments in their appropriately zoned areas, then a new precedent is being set for what's allowed to be built in a neighborhood serving area. Does Grovant want to work with our neighborhood and meet the neighborhood serving character area and NX zoning district requirements? If so, they should reach out to us. They sent us certified letters, but I mean they should genuinely reach out to us with the intention of having a productive discussion about the type of character serving retail and commercial uses that would serve and support our neighborhoods best. Grovant has a very large development in Sandy Springs. That's an area that's very built up and has a very big city feel to it. There are many tall buildings, and it's next to a 4-lane road. Surprisingly, the Sandy Springs location isn't even as large as the one they're proposing to build right here in our rural area. Their development is fine for Sandy Springs and for the character of that area, but we're not Sandy Springs, we're Roswell. And we need to make sure the future developments comply with Roswell's comprehensive plan and the UDC zoning district requirements. I respectfully ask that you deny Grovant's current proposal because it does not comply with Roswell's rules. And I ask that we strive to meet the character and scale for our remarkable town of Roswell. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Roshan Cherian. I'm a resident of Roswell, living on Lumcrow Road, right near the intersection of Cox Road and Arnold Mill, where the rezoning project is proposed to take place. And first of all, I wanted to just say thank you for the time to be able to share. I am absolutely sympathetic to the needs of seniors in this aging population. I have 2 elderly parents that live with me in their late 70s, and I feel it firsthand. But I struggle with this project, specifically about the impact of the traffic in the area. And I'm not just talking about the traffic in the mornings, you know, trying to get kids to school and in that area, using it for its intended purpose, but it's also the combination of the pedestrian traffic, the bicyclists, the traffic coming in from Canton across Arnold Mill. And I believe there's a Milton Firehouse that's right nearby that intersection as well. And when you take a look at all that together, I do not see how this type of project is going to fit the needs of the community without a major impact on our quality of life in that area. You know, I moved to Roswell a couple years back because of the city's commitment to sustainability and all the efforts that are being done around that. And I look at a project like this and its impact on CO2, refuse and garbage, water retention. I don't really see how this fits the vision around sustainability that I've seen the city uphold in my time here. And as Applicant already highlighted, this area is already saturated with a lot of commercial properties. And comparing, you know, some of the larger properties that were shown, they're accessible as well from Crabapple Road. The Publix, the Kroger that's there. This project is only accessible off of Arnold Mill, which is going to create a huge bottleneck in that area. And even comparing it to Holbrook, Holbrook has Highway 92. It's got a divided highway to be able to feed Holbrook and Woodstock and the senior living center there. Again, I'm very sympathetic to the needs of the seniors, but I absolutely do not see how a project like this is going to serve the needs of our community and the vision for what an NX zoning is supposed to accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
My name is Claire Snedeker, 765 Whitehall Way. As a member of the 2040 Comp Plan Committee, I just wanted to speak up a minute. Compatibility with the comp plan is paramount in this and other zoning decisions. The neighborhood serving node portion of the comp plan got a lot of consideration and a lot of build out. And I think it's key to Roswell, and our comp plan is key to our future. So I'd ask that you take the concerns and the issues of incompatibility that Ms. Chapman raised for the neighborhoods, and take those seriously. They are fundamental and deserve to be a driving force for the zoning decision, and it's hard to see how those points might not already be on the table in the discussion, so I'd ask that they be brought into the light. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Michelle Tremblay. I'm also a resident of Roswell, and I feel that this project will impact my life and those around me. The Planning Commission declined sending a rezoning recommendation to City Council in August. They require the required rezoning of the project from agriculture to neighborhood mixed use would conflict with the character of the area described in the city's current 2035 comprehensive plan. The 2040 comprehensive plan's vision for the estate residential zoning excuse me, is defined as characters defined by larger lots of estate homes. This area also excuse me, preserves large acres of open space. Future development should be consistent in scale and character. The 2040 Comprehensive Plan's vision for the neighborhood residential zoning sites that character is defined by established traditional suburban-oriented neighborhoods, often in a subdivision setting. Opportunities for the redevelopment are limited, but should be realized, realized with a commitment to preserving the existing scale of character. The 2040 Comprehensive Plan vision for the mixed zoning states the character area continues to provide commercial uses for nearby existing neighborhoods in a manner that is compatible with their scale and character. The biggest concerns I have are as follows. The project tremendously impacts the character of the area. Nothing in the area even compares or resembles this project. The sheer mass of the project is a big concern of height and size of this projected facility. There are better locations in the area in Roswell for this project. I'm a social worker. I'm a medical social worker. I'm very concerned for the care for seniors. Seniors is the population that I work with. We do need assisted living facilities, but there are better places in Roswell. There are 2 other locations specifically that have 4-lane highways and have more of a commercial area. The high intensity of this project is a big concern. This does not fit our rural infrastructure. Wildlife disruption, tree removal, traffic, sewer, stormwater management. Water is already a big problem in my yard. Drainage is a big concern. Coming down on Cagle Road, I have Whitecap Creek coming through my yard, crosses into Cagle Road, and sometimes there is a backup and flooding on the road. More drainage, if there's more problems with drainage, we're gonna have a big problem on Cagle Road for that. So drainage is a big concern. This project does not fit our rural infrastructure. The project does not correlate with neighborhood character, and this project does not comply with Roswell zoning rules, not in line with 2030 plans and not in line with the 2040 plans. Excuse me. I respectfully request that the mayor and council decline the zoning variances for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Hi. Brian Chapman, 225 Cagle Road. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. What they want to build does not fit into the character of the community. It does not comply with the underlying zoning district. It does not comply with the 2040 comprehensive plan. It does not conform. It's obvious that the staff is bending over backwards to make this work. Why? We say implement the vision of the people of the community. As we know, Roswell and Old Crabapple have mostly been wiped away by new development. Now, arguably, it seems that anyone who lives close to this area on Arnold Mill and Cagle is opposed to this being built. Of course, I can't poll the thousands and thousands of drivers who go up and down I-140 every day. They don't know about this. Of course, traffic is not being considered. I understand that. You've been told to not consider traffic. But I would like you to consider my uncle, Alan Rucker. Put yourself in his position for a moment. Not as a city council person, but just as a person. For those of you who don't know, it's his house that will be right next door to the structure. That house was built in 1939 by my great-grandfather, Lawrence Rucker, salt of the earth. I knew him. He died in 1984. He's been a lifelong member of this community, my uncle. And if you live long enough, everyone gets to see good things ruined. Now, in a perfect world, without all the complications that come when people set out to make money and develop communities, it would be like this. Do you want a 4-story monstrosity built next to you in the woods, in the country? No, of course you don't. We understand that. We wouldn't want that either. But that's not how the world works. Please think about it from his perspective. In the age where sometimes compassion can be replaced, I always hold out hope that people who can make the right decisions will. Of course, the out-of-town developers do not have to deal with this. They don't have to live here. They can make their money from Birmingham, and they realized a long time ago that you can't build an assisted living community in urban blight next to dilapidated factories. They'll only visit when they're possibly selling to the next person. And when they do come visit, I hope they have to drive up Arnold Mill to 140, and I hope they have to turn left into this community, and they have to wait and wait and wait and wait some more as the oncoming traffic goes around that curb, and then maybe they'll understand. I have to believe you put yourself in this position because you care about the community and the people. And finally, I'd like to reference this book. Because I'm a dad, I get to read a lot of books, children's books. This is called The Little House. I hope you've read it. It's by Virginia Lee Burton. It was written in 1942. And even in the 40s, everybody understood. This is a commentary on urban sprawl. And I guess I can just pull that definition out for you. It's the unrestricted growth in many areas of housing, commercial development, and roads over large expanses of land with little concern for urban planning. Now, if you're familiar with this book, I'd like to ask you to consider Alan Rucker's house as the house in the story. Of course, it's a house in the country. And over time, things continue to move in, they continue to invade, and in the end, the house is surrounded. Now, the happy ending, of course, is that the house gets moved out into another part of the country, and that's, of course, the happy ending. But of course, that's not how life works. Alan's house can't be relocated. Now, someday, the ironies of the universe will dictate that your child or grandchild or someone you know is going to bring you this book, and you're going to have to read it. And when the child understands it is actually sad that the little house had to be moved out of the country because the sprawl took over, I hope that speaks to you, because the child will understand. It takes us becoming adults to stop understanding and recognizing when something is rotten. And I hope that will give you a moment of clarity about what this type of expansion is. It's just awful for this area. What they want does not fit into the character of the community. It does not comply with the underlying zoning district. Please implement the vision of the people, not the out-of-town developers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Good evening. Patricia Green, 353 Cagle Road. Before I get started, I'd just like to take this time to right now object before I run out of time and to the document, the way it's presented and drawn as a neighboring landowner, because I feel like it violates our due process and equal protection rights under the Georgia Constitution. It also is vague, and it hasn't provided us with any certainty. And I reserve the right to make any other constitutional objections as may be necessary later in an approval process. I just want to say that a lot of the people have covered some of the things that I wanted to talk about with the non-compliance with the 2040 plan and the UDC requirements. I spent days looking through all 474 pages of the Roswell plan, trying to find out where does this comply? Where does this building comply? What are the definitions of this development that says that it can go on the current 2040 specification in this character area of NX? And first of all, as many people have mentioned, the details of why it doesn't comply. But one thing that wasn't brought up is the accessory lot, the smaller lot to, it's 4.3 acres. The UDC code requires that if you're going to have an NX serving on a property, it must be 10 acres minimum. He's got 8.94 something acres of the large lot. So therefore, that's requested NX zoning. The other lot has been neighborhood serving. Neighborhood residential, the 4-acre lot. So he's pushed everything to the side. He said, I've got a corner of my building on it, I'm using it as buffers. However, in UDC requirements, an accessory lot cannot be used for the same thing as the primary lot, the 10-acre lot. It's not allowed. In a neighborhood residential zoning, it will never be allowed. You can never put commercial on a neighborhood residential lot. So it is incompatible with his request. Right now, the only existing senior living places that we have that we know of are in zones rated OR. And so there's not actually a single senior living facility located in neighborhood character serving areas, also zone NX, 0. So this would set a precedent for the city of Roswell that you can bring a high intensity, high rise and set it out in the middle of, we say nowhere because we feel like we're in the country, but you're going along with large lots and land and one-story buildings, and then boom, you look like you think you're in Sandy Springs. Well, that is specifically not allowed in all of our codes, our UDC, and the vision for our 2040 plan. We have, the plan very clearly states we are asking for low-scale development intensity, limited non-residential, which may have up to 3 stories, and expanding back into stepping down and one higher 3 stories, and then step down into the 1-story look, so it doesn't loom up over the surrounding area. So it fits in with the neighborhood character. And as everybody has mentioned, this is not fitting in with the neighborhood character. But it's in, literally, I have not found one request that complies for NX on the definition of NX for this development to go into. It doesn't have commercial on the bottom floor. Not allowed in NX, has to be neighborhood serving in some way. And let me look for some other definitions. The NX code requires no more than a 15,000 square foot building as a single tenant. This building is 275,000 square feet as a single tenant. That's non-compliant with the code. The things that the other neighbors have been mentioning are non-compliant issues. So I think I'm done. It does not comply with the UDC as written, and as our Roswell very thoughtfully has written out our 2040 comprehensive plan. It's been well thought out with everybody's participation, the participation of the citizens as well.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Jason Yowell, 5010 Old Oak Trace. It's a nice project. It's the wrong place. And, I'm far from an anti-development kind of guy, as you may know. But this is such a reach that you might as well just throw away the zoning code and just do it ad hoc for every parcel that somebody wants to build something on, because this is so far out of compliance, and they're not even asking for the variances that are required. And these people have made it pretty clear. Wow, NX zoning without any retail, without any mixed use, with 250,000 square feet instead of 15,000 square feet for a single user. That's just, it's so egregious. You got to rewrite the zoning code. Our zoning code is a disaster. It was a disaster from the day they implemented it in 2014. But this is so far out of your zoning. It's so far out of your land use plan that you got to wonder why this would be approved, who benefits from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Not seeing any hands up. I would like to ask the applicant, I reserve time for you for rebuttal. Would you like to come forward and address any of the concerns or comments you've heard?
Wesley Reed with Eberly & Associates. Just wanted a couple of the points, the more technical points that I wanted to address. One is the sewer route. We have had discussions with Fulton County, have multiple locations that we can tie this property into gravity sewer that goes all the way to the treatment plant. So we feel very comfortable that we can make that happen without any stretch of engineering. Talk about the traffic. So this project does not even get to the threshold of needing the traffic study. We have looked at what other uses that people are talking about, retail, medical, office, those type uses. Every one of those uses is going to generate more traffic than what our project is proposed to generate. And then the last point I'll touch on is the stormwater. We're providing bioretention, which is what's provides runoff reduction. So for the first inch of water that falls on the site, it'll be retained on the site. Also stormwater detention. So we will not be able to discharge more water than what's being discharged now at a rate that's higher than what's being discharged now. So those concerns should not be part of the decision. Those will be addressed with engineering practices. So that's it. I'll let Dave.
I guess regarding the compliance issue with zoning, I mean, I'll have to get staff's assistance on that. I mean, we've reviewed it in depth. We feel like we've made an application that is fully compliant with the appropriate variances. We would just have to go through that, but we feel that we have made a compliant application. So.
Thank you. And I'll bring this back to council. Do you all have any questions, comments, concerns to address to staff or the applicants and/or both? Councilmember Tizer.
Yeah, just a few questions. Certainly struggled with this one in a number of ways. I drove by the property a couple weeks ago, and frankly drove right by the property a few weeks ago. Found myself just at the Cherokee border where there's tremendous amount of building going on up there. And most certainly this whole area years from now will look different. But, I asked for the overlay at the last meeting to understand a little more of what it would look like and whether it fit there now. I'm clearly not sure that it does fit there now. But I have a few questions, I guess, for staff. I've heard that this is not compliant because it's greater than 15,000 square feet. Councilmember Hall just showed me a sheet of paper that seems to bear that forward, so that would be one question. The other question is that I'm a little bit confused. I thought that when we left the meeting last time, we asked the applicant to meet with the neighborhood. Apparently that translated into send out a letter. So I'm a little confused as to how we didn't have some sort of neighborhood meeting, which is typically what's happened. Let's see, one other question. Are there any other adult care kind of facilities in NX? So that would be another staff question. And I think that is the series of questions that I had.
to go through the questions. Staff looked at that before they submitted, and we spoke with our legal department, and based on the fact that it was one commercial building, it did not fall under multi-tenant. So that was addressed prior to the submittal for the 15,000 square foot footprint. We looked at that seriously and determined that it was not a requirement for this zoning application when it went through, because we spoke with them prior to the applicant submitting. Related to the applicant meeting with the neighborhood, they sent a letter as they indicated. I can't answer that question. Regarding the third question that you have, I took a look at that earlier today. There is no senior living facility in the city of Roswell that I could find in an NX zoning classification. We have them in OR, we have them in RX, CC, and a variety and a lot of the historic Roswell downtown zoning classifications, but there are none located in the NX neighborhood mixed use.
So if I could just two follow-up questions. If you could explain just a little bit more about the single building versus multiple buildings and how the 15,000, why that doesn't apply, because I'm not sure I completely understood that. And then the final question that I would have is, if this is not approved tonight, what other kinds of zoning changes or things could we expect to see come forward for that piece of property in the future that would be compliant with the 2040 comp plan?
So to expand on that, as I stated, we looked at this as one commercial building, straight out one building, not a multi-tenant type of building for a tenant space. So when you look at that, it indicates tenant. So we saw this and discussed it at length numerous times as one commercial building. The only way I can explain it, I can't even go into it any further. We had several discussions prior to the applicant submitting related to the 15,000 square foot footprint. As to the comprehensive plan, the property is zoned AG. Anyone in the future can come in and build single family. It is allowed by right. So anyone could come in and do that. If someone wanted to rezone the comp plan under this area for the neighborhood serving node, we'll go there first. So the neighborhood serving character area does allow for low scale development. So if someone wanted to bring in a commercial retail, which is what everyone has indicated that it's not showing the retail, they could come back and ask for a rezoning with a retail development, low scale. So you're looking at probably maybe 1 to 2 stories to fit the neighborhood area. OP zoning is also compatible. So you're looking at maybe some small office. That would be a rezoning. It's not allowed by right. Allowed by right is AG. So you're looking at, if you bring my book over. Zoning ordinance. So in the agricultural zoning, allowed by right, timber harvesting, permitted use, single family, permitted use, group home, community recreation, conservation area, a park or recreation field up to 2 acres, reservoir, water supply, water well, telecommunications tower is a limited use, which of course must be approved by the mayor and council. Utilities, a golf driving range is a limited use, riding stable, greenhouse, non-commercial, garden, home occupations within the single-family residential. Horse stable, non-commercial. So if anybody has enough acreage on the property, they could have horses. You can have a hobby kennel, and you can do livestock grazing.
With a change of zoning, could someone build a Walmart or a Costco there?
So with the change of zoning to,
That would be compatible with the 2040 comp plan.
no.
Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Mayor. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to make sure I'm right here. What the member of the Comprehensive Plan Committee said was, this does not fit our comprehensive plan. Is that the staff's position, that this does not fit our 2040 comprehensive plan as is?
So staff recommended approval. The top parcel is within the neighborhood serving node character area, neighborhood serving character area. The bottom parcel is not. It is in the neighborhood residential character area. We did make a recommendation for approval because of the top parcel, and it falls within that section. However, as stated, the neighborhood residential parcel, it does not comply with.
And the 15,000 square feet, or the number we were talking about there, would that require, as was said, neighborhood serving on the bottom floor of that to make it fit the comp plan?
So the sentence in the code relates to a mixed-use building, and this is not a mixed-use building. So the UDC, I'll read it for you. Well, you've heard it. The sentence in the code relates to mixed use. This is not a mixed-use building. So if somebody was going to come in and do a mixed-use building, then they would have to have the requirement for the 15,000 square foot footprint. Does that help? That's what's in the UDC.
So it does not have to have a serving use on the bottom floor. Okay. So the question that Councilman Tizer asked, by right, somebody could buy this piece of property and put in single-family homes. Is there an does it have to be an acre lot? Do we have, what is it right now, an acre lot in ag?
Yes, an acre
Okay.
lot.
And so there's how many acres
You
here?
could come in, there's 13 acres, there's a stream on the property. I don't know,
All right.
8 to 10
8
homes.
to 10 single-family homes there, and then they do not have to stick to the buffering that this project is doing. They would only have to do the minimum buffering around the project.
There would be no buffering.
There
on
would
the
be no
project.
buffering around the project, so you
Correct.
could see straight in. Okay, so, all right, so I was not at the last meeting. I was out of town, so I'm trying to get my head around this not being in X, and also the ability for 10 homes to come in to this lot and build by right with us not being able to do anything. If we turn this down this evening, this project in what it looks like right now is done for a year. Is that correct? Minimum?
So if the rezoning is denied, no one could come back with another rezoning request for a year. They could not file. However, if someone wanted to develop under the AG zoning, the agricultural, they can do that.
And, okay, so we've got the year there. What I'm trying to figure out is it the project that the neighbors dislike, or is it the scale and not being able to sit with Grovant? And so, that in their minds, because I see here we've got a project that's doing a lot of screening, is taking a lot into mind with the neighbors, but the neighbors don't seem to care for it. So if 10 homes come in there and they have no screening, would they rather work with this for a lesser traffic and better screening and work with the project? And I don't want to set this back should the neighbors want to do something with this project that might in the end be a better project for them as far as traffic and screening, et cetera. So that's where I'm struggling with this. But I'm also struggling with the NX and the comprehensive plan, which is new information this evening.
Additional comments questions from council. Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. So one thing to clarify in some of the discussion, there were two different aspects being discussed. There was the comprehensive plan, and there was the UDC, which is our zoning code. The comprehensive plan, the aspects that certainly stuck out to me is of course there's the vision on why and what was intended, mentioning character and scale and serving that area, et cetera. But the bigger piece is, at the end of the day, this is combining multiple parcels from completely different character areas, and really a critical portion of the proposed plan is within a residential zoning, which again is what makes it so that this does not comply, given just the size and the combination of the different lots and areas. And then separately, there's the UDC and zoning discussion around some other things that I've heard tonight on use, size, et cetera, type of building, et cetera. That's separate from the comp plan. Two very relevant discussions that certainly are worth discussing one way or another. But I did want to clarify between the two. What I did want to mention too is based on a comment I just heard, there's ultimately mayor and council has the ability to decide when a property should be eligible to come back. Because what I mean by that is if there was an interest in reducing it. So we do have something in our code that says if a rezoning request is denied, then it's 1 year before that property could come back. I think there is the opportunity to certainly adjust that if that's an interest or a concern. And in fact, within our code, I forget the exact way that was worded. There's an opportunity for 6 months. There's an opportunity for a year. But again, mayor and council can certainly, I believe, adjust that if that's a concern. And I certainly am a big fan of any opportunity to really discuss and brainstorm and to look for different win-wins. But ultimately, again, I'm just really focused on the comp plan and the concern that a critical portion of this plan is within a residential area, which shows that this is not compatible. This is not a compatible zoning, and that's both with the newly adopted comp plan as well as the previous comp plan, which was in effect when this application was submitted and staff had reviewed. So that's kind of where I stand, and would love to discuss that more with mayor and council.
Additional comments, questions from council? Well, then I will be looking for a motion. Do we have a motion, Councilmember Hall?
Yes, Mayor Henry. Based on all of the information that we received this evening, My motion is going to be to deny item number 5.
We've got a motion to deny. Do I have a second? The motion fails for a lack of second. Councilmember Hall, would you like to attempt another motion, or would you like me to open it up to council?
Mayor Henry, will you please open it up to council?
Is there another council member that would like to make a motion? Mr. Petty, is my understanding that if there is no motion, it will die, correct?
That's correct. Say that again, ma'am.
It will die for a lack of a motion. And it appeared, yes, Councilmember Palermo.
So as always, again, and I think I brought this up last time 2 weeks ago, my goal is certainly trying to work towards unanimous votes and just really understanding what other opportunities there are. So I guess what I'm curious to this council is there an adjusted motion that members that did not second would support, whether that's if that's a concern with the kind of the timing on when a request can come through, or if there's anything else that would give this council some more comfort in the motion.
Councilmember Palermo, the problem is we don't have a motion right now. So, and it looks as though no one's willing to make a motion, which the result would be that this application basically is denied.
Well, so again,
would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion. My preference again is to hear, and again I'll give one last opportunity if there's any adjustment to that motion that would gain majority support. But if that's not the case, then I'll replicate Councilmember Hall's motion and motion to deny.
We've got another motion to deny. Now, do we have a second?
Hold on.
But Councilmember Judy.
So is there? Because I've heard from the neighbors that they felt like they weren't able to speak with Grovant. If there's an opportunity to have that happen and then bring this back with the residents' support, then I would not like this to have to wait a year. But I mean, I don't know. Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? I don't know what that is. But I would like there be the opportunity for them to work this out. So I'll leave that up to Councilman Palermo.
Ms. Dybel, could you give us a timeline? If the applicant were to agree to a deferral, are we still within the legal time limit? One minute. Let her finish.
So we've passed the date part. Let me find it. Okay, so the city council has 65 calendar days from the date of the public hearing to approve with conditions, deny, or send the applicant back to PC for additional consideration. And this time period may be extended if both the applicant and the council agree on an extension. So it is past we are past the 65 days. That was at the last meeting on the November 8th, and the applicant agreed at that point in time. So we have already passed that portion because we're at this one here. So I don't know if there are any other extensions due to the fact that we've already had one extension with the agreement.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Dybel. Is there a minimum time limit that the applicant could come back to council with a proposal? I mean, could that time be set at 2 months, 3 months, at any time less than a year, after having had those meetings and addressed some of the concerns of the community.
So it is, okay, so no application for legislative review affecting the same or any portion of the property that was denied by council will be accepted for filing within 12 months of the date for the application, when the application was denied. So the portion that Councilmember Palermo was remembering about the 6 months, I'll have to see, but that's what we have here related to a denial.
I was just curious if there was a minimum written in, so I also have concerns about the uses and the mass and scale, so we just would like to see some of those issues worked out.
Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you. And so for clarification too, I would not support a deferral tonight. There's been a deferral, and I think it is important that there is clarity, both in fairness for the applicant as well as all residents. But that being said, just looking for some consensus, what I certainly would support is a denial, and then really guidance from legal, whether that's tonight or if that takes a little, just as a part of the motion, that they would come back on whatever's necessary for us to make the update for this specific case next, at the very next regularly scheduled mayor and council meeting, if there's interest in reducing that amount of time from a year. So it is a year. It's anytime there's a denial, it's 6 months based on a withdrawal. But if that's the holdup, again, my preference is to perhaps we could address that and have some consensus here so that there's clarity for both the applicant as well as all the residents.
And Councilmember Palermo, that would require a code change, so I don't think that we could do that tonight. We'd have to have other readings.
And I'm not supportive of a code change either. It's my understanding we have and there was an example, I'd have to look through my records. We'd have the authority to reduce a specific time limit, specific property. That was something that came up for discussion a few years back, But again, I'm not supporting a deferral tonight. And but again, if that is a concern of this council, I do believe through some different research, there could be the opportunity to reduce that timeline. But realize we're not going to solve that part of it tonight.
Well, and let me just say I'm somewhat confused because you said you won't support a deferral, but you want to do a denial with an earlier review. That to me isn't a deferral. So, excuse me.
It's not though.
That to me is the same thing. A deferral is the same thing as a denial with a review in a shorter time period, wanting to get together the applicants and the residents. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. And perhaps Mr. Petty can address this. If the applicant redesigned to have the project just on the NX piece in a more scale and size that fits the neighboring area, would that still fall under the 1-year rule, since it would involve not exactly the same parcels?
Be the separate parcel. I don't think it would require the 12-month hesitation. It would be a different parcel. It would be a different project.
So effectively, they could come back with just the NX piece?
Jackie may know this better. She's more.
So this states that any part or parcel, if denied, has to wait the 12 months. If denied. So if there's a denial tonight, nothing can be requested for a rezoning on any parcel related to the rezoning for 12 months, unless somebody wants to develop under the ag agricultural zoning, which is what it's zoned now.
So I believe we've got a motion about Councilmember Palermo for denial. Is that correct? And did I get a second on that one? Do I have a second? Okay, then that motion dies for a lack of second. I think we've explored every option here, and so just by default, this application is denied. And we will move on to the transportation.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. Item number 6 is the approval of an amendment to section 22.
Most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life.
6.1, speed limits, appendix of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. This is the first reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the item before you is a renewal of our permit to enforce speed limits under the state of Georgia. That permit is a 3-year duration. So every 3 years, we update our ordinance and make some requests to the state of Georgia in terms of speed limit changes on specific roads, and that goes hand in hand with our ability to enforce those speed limits with speed detection devices. That item is due to expire December 31st of this year. This item will update our ordinance with a modified list, which we received just after our committee deadline for November, and we brought it directly to you for an attempt at 2 reads prior to the end of the year to update our list of roads and the associated speed limits. In your package, which I'll be happy to put on the overhead, page 6B and item 6B has the approved changes. There are not many. Most of them are along Woodstock Road related to the addition of the new school and a school zone in that area. They're actually that's strange. I'm not sure what's causing that. Okay, so the top 3 are Woodstock Road, and then there are a series of small subdivision roads that are new roads that are being added. That's the only change in our list of roads and their associated speed limits. The rest of the items in your package include the state law itself and a copy of our ordinance with the new modified limits included. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Council have any questions for Mr. Skalski? Councilmember Palermo.
So it's my understanding that if we don't approve this and we don't end up have this taken care of, then we're not able to enforce speed limits within the city of Roswell, which with a lot of cut-through traffic is an important tool. What I just want to stress is I certainly feel the city of Roswell, we need to do more in the future to really push on the state legislature representing us, as well as GDOT, of course, specifically, of them basically denying how we feel our roads need to be managed for the safety of our residents. There's many good examples of that, but you know, just mentioning the fact that Mimosa Boulevard, perhaps our most historic street, with all the churches and everything else, and the fact that we were not allowed to reduce the speed limit there is just a great example of us not getting the local control that we deserve. Another example is on Woodstock Road, right by the soccer fields and the dog park. I was trying to reduce the speed limit there, and GDOT basically telling us we don't have the authority to do that, even though it's a Roswell road that we're responsible for maintaining and doing everything else on. So again, I'm going to support it tonight because it's necessary to have this sent into to GDOT, but at the same time, I think we definitely need to do more to push to be able to fight for safety in the city of Roswell.
appreciate the comment, and we definitely will do what we can to justify additional reductions in speed when we can. However, GDOT does make the ultimate decisions. We requested those sections, and they were respectfully denied.
Additional comments? Yes, Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. Do they provide a reason for denial?
I have not seen one in our correspondence thus far. They do not meet their criteria, and I'll make an attempt to try to find out exactly what those criteria are that they're using to deny.
Just to help us in the future. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Wilsey, did you have a question?
Well, it was just a clarifying, but, so the request has been made to GDOT. GDOT has already come back, and we are just accepting the right to enforce the reductions that they have approved, correct?
Yes.
That's basically
And we need
the
those
process
to
and
enforce all of our speed
All
limits
of our speed
effective
limits,
January
right.
1.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's what's at
Okay.
risk
And the
here.
best we can do is just keep requesting and keep making the case to reduce those speed limits, so, okay,
Yes.
very good, thank you.
Additional comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Tyser?
So before I make a motion, I just have one question. If between now and the second reading, we were somehow able to convince the folks at GDOT that Mimosa, which I think this is probably the 8th or 9th year, we've asked for that stretch to be reduced. Is that something that's possible, or is this pretty much done? What's the?
We can certainly try to ask again. We've received our official written notice of their approvals and denials, so I'm not sure that it's feasible to get a positive response on one more street, but we can certainly make an email, make a call, and see if that's possible and bring it to you.
I'd certainly like that if we could.
And what I'd like to suggest, if you think it would be helpful, is I'm more than happy to write a letter from my office to GDOT requesting further consideration in the matter.
Absolutely. That
Thank you.
could not hurt.
Thank you. Before I open it up to the public, I would like, this is first reading, Mr. Petty?
Yes, this is the first reading ordinance of the Roswell City Council setting speed limits on certain streets.
Thank you, Mr. Petty. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Jason Yowell. It's nice that somebody wants to lower the speed limits to slow the speed of the traffic. I have found in the research that I've done, the best, most effective way to slow traffic is to narrow the lanes instead of widening them. And yet we have a transportation department that has always pushed to widen the lanes. And beyond widening the lanes, putting bike lanes in the street, further pushing the curbs out. And when you do that, you make it feel like you're going slower than you really are. When you get the bike lanes behind the curb and you pull the curbs in tight and you have 10-foot lanes instead of 11-foot lanes, people feel like they're going faster than they are, and they slow down. It also inhibits cut-through truck traffic, because trucks don't like those kinds of roads. And what we've been doing for way too many years is inducing speeding traffic, cutting through our community, inducing unnecessary truck traffic, cutting through our community. When I built my house 25 years ago off of Pine Grove Road was restricted to no through commercial traffic. A couple of years ago, we noticed that there was a lot of truck traffic. We complained. We were told, well, the problem is the state has a law that when the volume of traffic on a road hits a certain threshold, the local governing authority lacks the ability to restrict it to through commercial traffic. Now, just because we can't prohibit cut-through traffic like that doesn't mean we have to facilitate it and encourage it with our T-SPLOST dollars. And yet, it keeps happening. And this is why I've called for Transportation Commission to be created for years. And if you had taken my advice and implemented a Transportation Commission years ago, Oxbow wouldn't have been the disaster that it is. You wouldn't have wasted all the money throwing down the rat hole of the Gateway and Big Creek Parkway. These things are so badly designed by people who do not understand what they're doing. Transportation Commission would have stopped this, would have saved the city millions of dollars. And I like to think that the results of our last election were a referendum on whether or not we should have a Transportation Commission.
Please stay on topic. We're talking about road speeds,
Yes,
not a
so am I.
Transportation Commission.
I am too. It's all one and the same thing. If you have a Transportation Commission, you're going to get a better handle on these things because you're going to have better designed roads that are more responsive to the needs of the community. That's the point that I was trying to make. And that's all I have to say on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Janet Russell, Roswell resident. This conversation reminds me, just in reference, about, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, under the previous Department of Transportation guy, Mr. Asenbrack, there was a problem with speeding on Mimosa Boulevard because it was a straight shot and there wasn't anything to stop them. So they went through all these practices of, well, let's do bump outs and let's do thises and speed bumps. And I got up at a council meeting and I said, we all know that on-street parking slows things down. Currently, at that time, the signs were no parking except on Sundays to facilitate the churches, which of course have no parking at all, right? So we were giving the churches a special thing on Sundays, but the rest of the week, nobody could park on the street. And I suggested at that time, common sense, well, you know, I know that on-street parking slows traffic down. Why don't you just remove the no parking except on Sunday signs and see what happens? It doesn't cost anything except taking down the signs. So they actually did it, and guess what? The speed all slowed down in Mimosa when people could park on the street. The only reason I bring that up is there are citizens with common sense and worldwide experience that need to be listened to. Now, I'm not saying this is the case, but it just popped into my mind. Sometimes we are a solution in search of a problem. And speeding is a problem. And the more you widen the streets, the more you invite people to, we've been hearing it for the last year, all the gunning up and down the roads here because there haven't been many cars because of COVID. Well, that's the same as widening a road when you've eliminated all the traffic. Now it's all coming back, but they don't realize that there's more traffic. So we're having an accident. I hear the sirens all day, every day. So I'm just using it because none of you were present when that decision was made on Mimosa Boulevard. Oh, perhaps you were. Do you recall it, Mayor Henry?
I absolutely do, and I worked very hard on that initiative.
Do you recall that I was the one who suggested it?
No, I do not.
You should recall that because I was, and you know I have an excellent memory. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no hands up, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to approve item number 6 with the request that we make a special appeal with regard to the speed limit on Mimosa.
We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. And before we move to the budget and admin finance, I'd like to take a brief break, 10 minutes. Please be back at 9:15. hear from the Admin Finance Department. Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Item number 7, approval of the FY 2022 mid-year budget amendment. This is presented by Ryan Luckett, Director of Finance.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is our FY 2022 mid-year budget amendment. I do have a brief recap of the presentation that we provided at the November 8th work session. And just to kind of reiterate this as well, in your agenda packet, there are a couple of attachments that accompany this item. We have a summary of the recommendations from staff. We have an attachment that shows you the detail of each request that's been provided. And then in response to a question that came up at the work session back on November 8th, we've also provided a compilation of all of the unfunded items that were from the FY22 budget process, the unfunded items that were discussed as part of the ARPA initial discussion. And so those are there compiled for you for your reference. So just to get started, I'm going to cover some information about, just provide some background as well as some information about the process, a quick summary of the affected funds in regards to the staff recommendation, a quick review of the department requests. So just to hit on the background, I wanted to start with the background just because there have been a lot of different processes that we've discussed over the last few months. And I know there's an opportunity for some confusion there. All of these have been kind of going on simultaneously, and I wanted to kind of step back and talk about where we've been and how we got to where we are today. So the FY 2022 budget process obviously was kicked off by staff back in January of 2021. That was discussed with our city administrator at the time, with the mayor, and eventually the mayor and the council. The mayor and council approved the FY 2022 budget back on May 24th, 2021. In addition to that, the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law by the president back in early March. This was a federal law, $1.9 trillion, provided, one component of that provided funding to basically every single state, city, and county in the whole country to address the repercussions related to COVID. That was signed into law in early March. Detailed guidance on that was provided in early May. We held a work session with you all to discuss staff recommendations for how to spend those funds. And then you all directed staff to go back and do some public engagement, which we are getting ready to kick off in the next week or so with our residents. In addition to that, back on October 12th and November 8th, Mayor and Council requested staff to provide immediate needs. And then staff also began working on the mid-year budget process at the end of September. So if you count those up, we had really 4 simultaneous kind of processes going on. And obviously that created the opportunity for some confusion. So in response to that, as we compiled the mid-year budget amendment, staff, basically the leadership team met to kind of work our way through all of these different funding requests that have come up, whether it was the budget process for FY 2022 or the ARPA discussion. And that's where we're getting the mid-year budget amendment. The items presented as part of the FY22 mid-year budget amendment include all funding needs for the remainder of the current fiscal year. So staff has gone back and reviewed the unfunded items from the FY22 budget process, the items that were discussed as part of the ARPA work session, and we are bringing to you as part of the mid-year these funding needs that are necessary for the remainder of the fiscal year. So this incorporates all the requests, or this incorporates the requests that were discussed as part of all these different processes, including the discussion about immediate needs. One thing that has changed since then is that we are approaching the end of our financial close for the previous fiscal year. We have a better handle on how our fund balance looks, and so we're able to utilize some of that fund balance to help fund the current budget needs that are a part of the FY22 mid-year budget. The ARPA discussions, those are kind of continuing on in their own track, and the public engagement, the feedback that we receive from that will be brought back to a future mayor and council meeting based on that information that we're able to gather, and how to allocate those funds will be discussed at a future mayor and council meeting. Also wanted to just provide you with some background on the guidance that was provided to departments in compiling the mid-year budget amendments. First of all, our recommendation to departments was that any new operating budget spending would be contingent upon the availability of new operating resources. So in other words, we want to make sure that we were funding any new operating recurring requests with recurring resources. At the time that we began developing these requests, we were still very early in the fiscal year. We were trying to be as conservative as possible in terms of our projections and the fund balance that we had available. We also knew that as the FY23 budget process was approaching, we're getting ready to kick that off here just in the next few weeks, that we knew that we had certain cost increases that we were needing to prepare for. And so we didn't want to recommend the use of too many resources that we knew that would be necessary to fund operations moving into 2023. So basically, our recommendation in terms of a staff perspective was to delay funding any new recurring operating request, if possible, until the FY23 budget process, in order for all of those requests to be evaluated among all the departmental needs that would be presented as part of that 23 budget process. And lastly, we were recommending to utilize the mid-year budget amendment process to really focus on funding one-time or capital budget needs through the use of available fund balance. So I want to move on to a fund summary of the affected funds related to the recommendations in the mid-year. This first slide is the general fund summary. So the top table gives you our available funds. So what we're showing is $4.5 million in fund balance in the general fund. We're recommending to you revenue adjustments that are a net increase of $1.1 million, and that gives us a total available funds of $5.66 million. On that bottom table, we are recommending operating adjustments. So this would be a net increase in operating expenses of $389,000. We're recommending to transfer $3.1 million to our capital projects fund to fund the various maintenance and capital requests that have been recommended through this process. And they were recommending to reserve the remaining funds of $2.1 million to be allocated as part of the FY 2023 budget process. I mentioned in the previous slide that we are recommending net revenue increases of $1.1 million, and I discussed all of these at the November 8th work session, so I don't want to go into too much detail unless there are questions, but these are all of the revenue adjustments. You can see the first three are increases. Primarily, it would be our sales tax. We are recommending a couple of decreases related to property taxes and licenses and permits. All of those adjustments net out to a net revenue increase of $1.16 million. The next summary deals with our capital projects fund. So the top table again shows you our available funds. First of all, we have the transfer that I just referenced from the general fund of $3.1 million. Two additional revenue sources. One is related to the public safety laptop replacement. That was previously approved by Mayor and Council, and this is just really more of an accounting adjustment and recognition of lease proceeds of $795,000. As one of the other requests that you'll see is a fire engine replacement, and again, this is recognizing the lease proceeds associated with that fire engine replacement of $771,000. So that gives us total available funds for this fund of $4.6 million, and you can see at the bottom that capital requests total the $4.672 million. And then the last affected fund as part of the mid-year includes our debt fund. And here we're showing an estimated current fund balance in that fund of $2.3 million. This is the fund that is made up of the property tax, the debt service portion of our property tax revenue. So we have a fund balance of $2.3 million. We're recommending a revenue reduction here of $850,000. And this is to reflect the millage rate decrease that was approved by you all back in August. That would leave us with an estimated fund balance in that fund of $1.5 million. Moving on to the departmental requests, I'm going to hit these really quick since these were discussed in depth at our work session on November 8th. And our department heads are here as well if there is any specific questions about any of these items. But just to go through these, the administration department had one operating request. There was an increase in funding for legal fees of $200,000. One capital request for planned facility maintenance of $1.6 million. Our fire department had one operating request, and this is actually unfunded as part of the mid-year budget amendment, and this was for one full-time position, fire and life safety plans reviewer position at $57,000. The other requests for the fire department are all capital related, and they're all currently recommended. That would be $25,000 for the fire headquarters remodel project, $771,000 for a fire engine replacement. This one has the accompanying revenue, so this is a net zero impact to the fund. The addition of an iPlan workstation for the fire marshal's office at $17,000, and then the EMS utility terrain vehicle replacement for $30,000. Our police department had two operating requests. One was to reduce the budgeted vacancy savings, and that was for $200,000. There was an active shooter kits replacement at a total of $17,000. In terms of capital requests for the police department, there was the replacement of an automated license plate recognition device at $50,000, a replacement of a thermal imaging device at $16,000, replacement of a bike for the bicycle patrol of $10,000, and a replacement of the motorcycle fleet totaling $300,000. For our Recreation, Parks, Historic, and Cultural Affairs Department, there was one operating request for $10,000, and that was related to contract services for the Riverside Sounds concert series. All of the other items are capital related, $100,000 for system-wide park improvements, $110,000 for trail repairs, $52,000 for light pole replacement, $150,000 for the Adult Aquatic Center pool deck replacement, $165,000 for the Historic House properties maintenance, $53,000 for a small equipment replacement program, $125,000 for the large equipment replacement program, $70,000 for the tennis court rebuild project, and $130,000 for playground replacement. Our transportation department had two capital requests. One was for the replacement of an asphalt compaction roller at $65,000, and the second was the additional funds for the speed management and pedestrian safety program for a total of $35,000. Citywide, we were recommending to recognize some operating savings related to a recompetition of our copier printer contract, and that was a savings of $38,000. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there was the capital request. This was previously approved. This is really just approving the accounting adjustment associated with that to recognize the lease proceeds and expense of $795,189 for that public safety laptop replacement. So with that, that concludes the mid-year budget amendment, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Council, have any questions for Mr. Luckett? Seeing no hands up, is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no hands up, I'll bring it back to council. Do I have a motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, a quick question that I do have for Director Luckett. Given that there are a lot of conversations going on simultaneously with a lot of initiatives being discussed in the ARPA public input that we're receiving on how those funds should be allocated, and some initiatives that we've heard from the incoming administration, are there items on here that are urgent and necessary that need to be funded immediately that you've heard from the departments?
Yes, I would say that, the departments, as we've worked through this process, we've taken all of these requests and all of these have been pared down, and what you see before you is kind of the critical list of funding needs for the rest of this fiscal year. Mm-hmm. If this were to get deferred, there are about 5 items that are time sensitive in nature, and I'll be glad to describe those if you'd like.
Sure, please do. Thank you.
One would be, I'm referring to the summary listing, but one would be the fire engine replacement for $771,500. Another one would be the $1.6 million in facility maintenance. And then there are 3 related to recreation and parks, those being the Adult Aquatic Center pool deck replacement for $150,000, the Historic House properties maintenance at $165,000, the tennis court rebuild at $70,000. All of these items that you see in the mid-year are, items that we would typically see as part of the maintenance capital program. And these weren't funded at the time of the budget approval process just because the resources weren't there at the time. But if we had to, talk about the ones that are time sensitive, those would be the 5 that we'd be referring to.
All right. Thank you. And within the planned facility management, I remember from the work session that includes elevator replacement, and there's a roof as well as some other pretty urgent facilities needs, correct?
Yes, it includes, the biggest item within that is the replacement of the roof at the Physical Activity Center. It's about $1.1 million.
Right.
And the remainder of that dealt with elevator replacement and some repair to the siding and painting at River Landing, as well as some city air handler replacement, I think.
Okay, all right. Thank you. With that information, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve 5 items from the request from the Capital Projects Fund, and that is $771,500 for the fire engine replacement, $1.6 million for planned facility maintenance, $165,000 for the historic house maintenance, $150,000 for the adult aquatic center pool deck replacement, and tennis court rebuild at Roswell Area Park in the amount of $70,000. Approval of those items from the Capital Projects Fund and defer the future discussions to the first council meeting in January.
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion by Councilmember Wilsey. Do I have a second?
I have a clarifying question.
Councilmember Hall.
Clarifying question. These items that you proposed, are there ARPA funds being used for these, or were these funds from the last year's extra adjustments?
So these are all being funded, if, with the deferral item, these would all be funded through fund balance in the general fund. We would not be touching ARPA funds.
So Councilmember Wilsey's excluding all of the ARPA funds.
Well, even with the recommendation from staff, these did not include anything using ARPA funds. We were using general fund revenues and general fund balance to fund these items.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Those were not being discussed tonight. Correct. Right.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilsey. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. We've got a city attorney, I'm sorry, did I say it passed unanimously?
Yes.
What, you were
Did.
questioning me?
No, ma'am. Just that.
Okay,
Councilmember
so
Palermo actually seconded.
we've got a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel litigation and real estate. Do I have a motion?
Motion for closure.
Motion for closure by Councilmember Tizer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And we are adjourned. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start open mic night. I would like to call to order the Monday, January 29th, open mic night meeting. And if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak, yes, ma'am, please come forward.
A little bit late. Well, I'll keep this short. I'm Janet Russell, and I would like to share with you my Christmas wish list for Roswell. I thought this would be better than just being a complainer, because I never complain without offering a positive alternative. So 2 weeks ago, for Veterans Day, the Saturday after Veterans Day, I attended the dedication ceremony in downtown Johns Creek at Newtown Park of the moving wall, which has moved around the United States. It's the replica of the Vietnam Wall that's in D.C. It was up for sale a few years ago, and Johns Creek bought it for $80,000. And then they created an extraordinary Veterans Park for a total of $340,000. I have been to visit that park twice since then. It is absolutely, and I don't use this often, world class. My wish is that Roswell didn't waste $110,000 on an investigation of Oxbow Road, because they could have contributed to that and built something of quality in our city. Instead, we wasted money, and we have nothing to show for it. So I wish in the future that the city be more careful and prioritize where they wish to spend our money. I would also like to share with you, I hope this works, I've never done this before. How do you make this work? Does anybody know? I don't know, I'm sorry, I've never used one. Thank you, Lenore. Oh, they beat me to it. Don't ask me, stop the clock. I didn't touch it. There it is. Oh, let's see, is it gonna work? Yeah. I would like to see, I wish that we have a more responsible visitor center and Roswell Inc. I asked from Mr. Luckett the amount of money we've given these entities since 2019, and Roswell Visitor Center, or Visit Roswell, got over $2 million, and Roswell Inc. got $1.5 million. That being said, Visit Roswell closed its offices in April of 2020 and never reopened. I would like to know, and I wish that we would have a better visitor center, because if you'll read my message up here, I said, I am a travel professional. 1 week after they signed the MOU with the city, they closed the visitor center, and they closed Roswell Inc., where we were paying $7,000 a month rent for a building that we owned for 40 years before we traded it for a firehouse. I just thought you'd like to see that. Mr. Luckett's always fantastic with getting me numbers. $2 million, and we don't have a visitor center. We now have pop-ups, which are a poor excuse for a visitor center. I would like to share with you in the future what my idea was that I gave to Mr. Williams free of charge in October of 2020 that would have been unique in the whole United States to further tourism in Roswell. I would like to see the lights on the town square finally come back. The lampposts that were taken down 7 years ago that were crappy solar things, and I was promised that they'd be replaced by new ones after we took down the Christmas lights. Well, the Christmas lights have come up and down for 7 years, and we still have no light poles. So I wish we would have light poles, because currently it is as dark as a tomb. And I go to other places in Metro Atlanta, and they are alive and well. I would like to invite you to attend on December 14th an event. I wish for you to attend. On December 28th, a tie-in talk in downtown Woodstock. How Woodstock went from a sleepy, decaying, empty town in the early 2000s to the booming metropolis it is today, all the while keeping its carefully crafted and viciously protected small-town feel. This will be given by Katie O'Connor, the senior city planner of Woodstock. Woodstock has a city planner. Hello? I wish we had one. I wish we had a community bulletin board, electronic if nothing else, that allows us for everything in our city to let us know what's going on. Good examples, we had Irish Fest here 2 or 3 weeks ago, right on Canton Street. Nobody knew about it. I only knew about it because there was a little tiny yard sign this big stuck on a corner. Why don't we have that so that any entity in this city, whether it's a church, a synagogue, a dance group, can send it to us? One time I asked about this and I was told, oh, but then they have to get approval and it has to, I said, this is not Congress. It's about a bake sale, for Pete's sake. It's about a church bazaar. That's what gives a city a real feeling of community. Not just city events in the Roswell Connects thing. because that isn't working either too well. They had the turkey hobble gobble thing on Thanksgiving morning. I only knew about it because of the digital sign that was at the corner of the city hall. I wish we had better information sharing in our city because we live in a good city. We have great people. And when you attend things that are out of your comfort zone, we become better friends. I wish we had more collaboration between our departments and the Roswell Arts Fund. I would like to see something happen on 2 pedestrian bridges in Roswell that I've come up with an idea. I don't want to wait. I don't want my urn to be when I'm in an urn to see that the project finally happens. I would like to see the entire council listen. The new council, are you out there listening on hello? I would like to hear you listen to me about my design that I worked with a professional planner for the Faces of War Memorial area, the city green that the previous mayor would never let me present. But we spent $2 million on design ideas, not one of which was ever implemented because it was garbage, pure garbage. And my ideas, every time I've mentioned it, people say, brilliant, Janet, why didn't we do it? I said, because I'm not in the right camp. I haven't been here long enough. I'm not one of the good old boys. I'm just a concerned citizen who happens to be very creative and very smart. I don't do it for my own self. I do it for the value of our community. I would also like to see some point in this town a recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. Last month, September 15th to October 15th, was Hispanic Heritage Month, and not one word was said. We did have Retired Teachers Day proclamation. We did have Arbor Day today, which I think was so funny, because your proclamation was great, Mayor, about saving the trees and saving the water and keeping runoff, except we just clear-cut a corner, Spring Drive and Highway 120, that is never going to, that must have taken down 300 trees, and the Historic Gateway Project is going to clear-cut 40 feet into the National Park, which is straight down and prevents the flooding onto Riverside Drive. We need to honor those proclamations. They're not just words, you know. So I have my wish list, and one final thing. Regarding Oxbow Road, somebody mentioned it to me and I'd never really thought of it, and I always learn something new every day. Someone said the fact that that road has been closed for almost 24 months tells you we never needed the project to begin with. Think about it. It's been closed for 24 months. Every day I have to look at it and I feel like I'm in Beirut right after the explosion in the port. None of you live near it, see it, or care about it. But every day, there is no passable sidewalk. Chunks are missing. Orange barrels, concrete. I can tell you that project would have never happened, never, outside of Brookfield West. It would have never happened outside of Horseshoe Bend. It was all about geography and the people that live in it. And that's my Christmas wish. I hope we get our act together next year because we have some bright lights coming.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for that positive message for us. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Yes, sir.
Jason Yowell. The first thing I want to touch on is the eminent domain stuff that you were talking about earlier. I took a quick look at that. And one thing you might want to add into that is a provision that even GDOT has, and that is that you have to demonstrate that there's no other option to the eminent domain taking, that you can't engineer it, you can't design it any other way. It's a pretty important piece because, again, we've got a transportation department that over-engineers everything, wastes tremendous amounts of money, and the right-of-way taking is a big issue. The less you need, the faster your project will go, the less expensive it will be to construct. Which brings me back to a topic that has become a favorite of mine here at Marion City Council, Oxbow Road. We were looking at $1 million change order, and of course the job stopped. It got whittled down to something like a $600,000 change order with the elimination of Oxbow Alley, which was never had any real purpose other than it was something that was demanded by the owners of the hardware store. That's a great start. I don't think you need to spend another $600,000. I know it's going to be decided by the next mayor and council, but you need to put it on a road diet. And the first place to start is that cut through to the Mill Village, which was, so ill-conceived and clearly part of a real estate scheme that just was for the benefit of one developer and at the great expense of the city. The other thing is narrow down the lanes to 10 feet. You don't have any 11-foot lanes going through the historic district there that it's tying into. You don't have any bicycle lanes in the street there. Road diet. And if you had narrowed the road, lost the street located bike lanes, you probably wouldn't have needed those two triangle pieces totaling all of 1,400 square feet that you paid $300,000 for, not once, but twice, because it just was such a great thing to do. Plus all the additional money that you threw at the developer and the landowner in terms of stormwater detention, grading, and site work. Wow, it's really $1 million giveaway, but only in the city of Roswell does that happen. Janet made a great point. We don't need Oxbow to connect to Highway 9. We'd be much better served if we made Pleasant Hill two-way from Oxbow to whatever that street is, the next street over. Oak. That's all we need. You know what you do with that big bowl of land? I got a great idea, municipal amphitheater. Now you've got a feature to knit the two ends of the historic district together. It'd be a lot cheaper than finishing the road the way you got it designed, and you don't need an intersection there. Wow, we've lived with it for 2 years. The world hasn't collapsed. Traffic hasn't gotten jammed up. You don't need that cut through to Mimosa either. This is all for the benefit of Cobb County commuters coming off of the express lanes that are being dumped onto Grimes Bridge Road. Again, T-SPLOST money for the benefit of Cobb County commuters. That's why we need the Transportation Commission. Those of you who didn't favor it made a huge mistake. It cost you the election. We're going to change things next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? No, sir. No, sir. Your time is up.
We still haven't had an answer on where the $300,000 went and
Just for the record, you are not on the record. I muted the video for your outburst. Thank you, sir. What would you like to bring forward?
My name is Bill Odre, 9755.
Thank you.
Roberts Drive. This is being recorded, correct? No, this
Yes,
is being recorded.
you are being recorded,
Okay,
sir.
and I came to get some answers from some questions answered because I've been waiting for like 1.5 years and stuff. And I need to get this put up, so I'm going to get my time. Somebody can help me, please? I don't want to lose my minutes. Unless we can go back. But I have like 2 issues. First, Roswell took my business, and now Roswell's trying to take my property for the pedestrian bridge. My name is Bill Odre, and our company is Shoot the Hooch, and I'm not an attorney. And we were told and been with the city for Roswell over 20 years, safely taking Roswell citizens and guests throughout the world on the beautiful Chattahoochee River here in Roswell. About 1.5 years ago, we lost our contract with Roswell due to being disqualified because our company was too small of a company, even though we developed, served, and expanded operations in Roswell for over 20 years. The city of Roswell rejected us using the National Park Service as one of our locations, which you have to have National Park Service is one of your locations, because you couldn't operate in Roswell without it. So it's kind of illegal and unjust. Like I said, I'm not an attorney, but I feel and still do that the bid process was flawed and compromised. Councilman Matt Judy said to the council, let's vote and fix it later. Before the bid was actually voted on, Mr. Leatherman and the Recreation Department stated that the Nantahala Outdoor Center had other options for the city, but they couldn't discuss these options until Nantahala Outdoor Center had been awarded the bid first. Basically, this meant the city had spoken to the bidder, even though we were not supposed to discuss anything with the city because of the rules of the bid process. To me, this seems like collusion and maybe an abuse of power. Then City Attorney Davidson did nothing to stop or delay the vote to research this legality. He agreed to move forward, or the city would not have moved forward, which I still feel is both unlawful and an improper procedure. Next, the mayor and city council voted also to approve this. The city did say they would look into this, and a year and a half later, nothing has happened. I truly believe this contract is flawed and should be investigated and corrected and maybe even prosecuted for possible criminal wrongdoing. But finally, the citizens of Roswell have spoken, as we have seen what happens with this kind of irresponsibility when poor governing occurs that is not legitimate, proper, and could be an abuse of power. These city officials have now been voted out of office. I'm hoping the new city council and a new mayor will look into this and correct this impropriety. I truly love Roswell, and we're looking forward to being back in Roswell this coming year. So that's the part of taking my livelihood. Now we get to the property. I tried for months, years almost, to find out what City of Roswell was doing because of taking a place to build the bridge. Any one of you can build a bridge on your property. I don't need the bridge on my property. I own the corner of the river to the middle of the river, the ground under the river. And what's happening is the Sandy Springs says Roswell's in charge of things. I come to Roswell, and finally I had to actually go because I was coming here, I actually had to go track down the transportation department because Daryl, the Genan, or where his name is, he will never respond to me. And finally, Grave Nicholas did talk to us. And what's happening is they're building the bridge coming across the property. This is the bridge here coming across. They have to then take this piece of property to come over, but because there's a stream here, they cannot use this part of the property here. So to build the bridge, they have to take about 50 trees out here just to get to the river. So when they build the walkway, they have to then close the lane down coming into Roswell. Coming into Roswell, they're going to close the lane down possibly for 2 months. Well, they said it was, once they get started, it's going to be delayed a couple of months, but it could be 18 months to 3 years to build the bridge. So when you talk about slowing down traffic, you're getting a traffic slowdown. So what I want to know is what you're going to do to help me. If you want my property, buy it or do something, or help me get Sandy Springs to rezone the property because you're bringing the public in. Sandy Springs is more than happy, I'm sure, to come on to Roswell because Sandy Springs doesn't have any park facilities. So I'm trying to I wanted to put a recreation center on my property so that something could happen to tie the bridge in. So if you could please help me, and I know, some of you are going to be gone, but use common sense, and I just hope that you guys could come together and help me with my problem. You need to look into why we lost the contract after 20 years. Nobody even knew, but we knew we were losing a contract. That's why we bid so high. But nobody in city council even came after a year and a half. You guys never called me. You never would respond to me. And then, fortunately, some of you are gone that voted against us. Like you didn't give me a chance, and you laughed at me. Who's laughing now? I'm really sad, and I wish you well. I wish everybody well, but it's not the right thing to do. And I hope you help me correct it. And I hope, since you're our government officials, you get some of your department heads to do something. They do nothing. They don't respond. I call Sandy
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, we are adjourned.